So, hello to everybody watching, listening, and something different today. Not me playing more or less live and packing it into a video, but me having had an awesome game. I didn't record it because I'm not recording every game I play. Otherwise, I would be backlogging until, my hard drive is full. But I had a really good match against this guy. And it started out with him going somewhat aggro on one side, me of course going balanced. I didn't have many choices that I actually enjoy. So what I'm doing for the moment is just trying to build a basic ward. Meanwhile, he's apparently at the beginning starting off with a balanced board, and then he thinks, you know what, nah, we're going aggro. He is giant specialist, I am aerial specialist, and turn 1 is going like this. I have a lot of chaff moving in, but he has so many Mustangs. This side is gonna win. There's just not enough here to outlast the chaff that I have with the Phoenixes putting rounds into the Mustangs. But this side is looking entirely different. There was 2 sets of Mustangs here and the same amount of my forces, but also triple sniper. So yeah, he's winning that side. I'm getting the tower. I'm putting a bit of fire into the marksman, but overall it's not going for, not really in my favor in any way, shape or form. So what ends up happening is he just clears out my chaff, and that is turn number 1. Next turn, my opponent, remember, is Giant Specialist, and there's Mass-Produced Fortress here. I'm skipping because none of these options seem particularly alluring for me. He's going in for Mass-Produced Fortress. First one immediately plunked down here. I'm thinking, you know what? I should outlast my opponent. Let's go for some tanks. My opponent has entirely different plans. He is not even remotely trying to really deal with my army. He's just putting on pressure. And I'm not saying that's a bad strategy. It's just an observation in this particular case. So these tanks, boom, all done. All done, all done. Meanwhile, this side is now looking so many times more better because I have a lot of tanks. This side, despite the fact that there is Mustangs here and a fortress, the Mustangs are pulling ahead, aggroing on the Phoenixes, or at least the other way around. No, I guess, yeah, the Mustangs are aggroing on the Phoenixes, but the Phoenixes themselves are taking down a couple more Mustangs, and I have this entire side moving in, so not much hope for my opponent here. Let's be perfectly honest. Next turn, laser sights. My opponent immediately picks it. I'm a bit torn between firepower control module and laser sights, but in the end I take laser sights, put it on my Phoenixes. He's in the meantime just thinking about how can I get rid of these Phoenixes. Oh, I have attack on the fortress that does that. And he's just going in for it. Personally, I was thinking about maybe picking up a Scorpion, going down that route, but in the end I decided for Stormcallers because they can take care of all of his stuff pretty effectively. Yeah. He, in the meantime, is just going in on fortresses. I was not really expecting him to do that, because they're not really that amazing against what I have on my board, but apparently that's just what he did. So he goes for the fortresses, and they take down Phoenixes pretty effectively, but not super effectively. Which means that I now have so much chaff, and a couple of Stormcallers behind that chaff, that his fortresses are just not happening here. His fortresses are not winning this turn. I'm even getting the towers, if memory serves. Yep. And yeah, that is this turn done and dusted. My opponent right now has won the first turn and nothing since so far. Next turn, both going for barrier. I can spoiler it. It's just here in a couple of seconds. He's adding in Vulcans because he realizes chaff is a problem. Meanwhile, I realize that the problem is if the Phoenixes die and he somehow gets to the Stormcallers, there's not going to be much of anything that can stop his forces right now. So I'm adding in my melting point here. Also adding in a crawler set because I have the money for it. Putting the shield on the melting point, and that's about it. He, in the meantime, is just putting down Vulcans. Vulcans and Vulcans, it seems. Turn ends like this, or rather it resumes like this. Chaff here in the middle is cleared up relatively quickly, but it is a couple of salvos on the Stormcallers doing nothing. However, I'm not relying on the Stormcaller damage anymore. I can do just fine without it, at least on this side. The other side is not looking as good. Stormcallers here are doing a decent job, but they can't win against everything. That said, there is so many Swarmers here. As long as the Vulcan goes down, and it will go down against the Stormcallers, that fortress is just in a world of hurt. It blows up. And then that's the next turn. I'm picking Tech Specialist. I did not really, notice, or maybe I did notice and just didn't remember. But I didn't really consciously remember that there was also fire here. Which means that I didn't shield against it. Maybe I had noticed and had planned to shield and just forgot over the turn. I'm not sure anymore. I do absolutely nothing against his fire. I'm just adding a couple of melting points. Meanwhile, he's just picking up a melting point with range on his own, and that is actually a huge problem for me because it's outranging my melting points, and I can't do anything against it. Really, I can't do anything against it. This side is going down horribly. His melting point is melting. Vulcan here is taking damage. Ultimately, we are just fighting and fighting. I win this side, he wins this side, but his forces are just ever so slightly superior to mine because his melting point has more range, and that's the entire end of the story. Takes down the Phoenix, takes down one melting point, takes down the second melting point. That's the round done and dusted, and my opponent is now starting to pile up some damage here. Absorption module comes up. Haven't played around with it too much, so I'm picking it. My opponent is picking Smoke Bomb. And I can already spoiler you this much. Guess who is forgetting to put up a shield? This idiot speaking right now. Unfortunately, they don't have long enough range to just outrange this. I'm also picking up Crawlers, because once the Vulcans have gone down, more chaff is going to absolutely eviscerate him. I'm selling the set of Phoenixes and giving the item to this melting point, which unfortunately still doesn't have sufficient range to punch over the smoke and hit his units here. At this point, I'm debating what should I do with my money. I end up picking up 2 more Stormcallers, and these 2 Stormcallers, I'm putting them behind the tanks. I'm kind of running out of time.